Welcome back to Primary Math, Mrs. Jennifer Wright's class. I am Mrs. Brader, and I will be coming in here today to teach you, I guess the best way to say it is how to get down to the level of a young child. It is one of the very hardest things to do. So let's pray and we'll get started. Father, thank you so much for this day, and I thank you for these ladies and their willingness to want to come and learn how best that they can serve you and to be the best of their abilities. Lord, I pray that you would help them to take this information today, to be able to use it later on in their ministries. Lord, most of all, just to help them in whatever ministry you have them to do, to be able to work with little kids. Thank you for all that you've done for us now. Give us a good day. In your name I pray. Amen. So I'm going to be talking about, I did a lecture one time in Indianapolis, and I called it, It's Just Kindergarten, right? And that is a terrible fallacy for teachers to think, or people to think, because honestly, it's just kindergarten. Kindergarten is one of the most difficult ages to teach. And so we're really talking about primary, so I'm taking a step up for that. First graders, still very, very important. Did you know in Indiana it's not absolutely necessary for a child to come to kindergarten? So some first grade students it may be the first time that they're in school. All right? So what foundation do they have? They have whatever foundation that they've gotten from their parents at home or from the daycare that they've gone to. So I think the most important thing to remember, it was really comical last night at, never mind what time, but I brought up Mrs. Wright's primary lecture and talking about how to do the lesson. And her terminology that she was using was nothing of my terminology. And I started thinking about that, and I was thinking about the way I would say things, and I thought, you know what, that is so true of her and myself and the different levels that we teach. She is a lot of upper levels, isn't she? And so her mind goes up there. Well, for 30 years I've been teaching 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds, and so my mind automatically drops down to terminology that those kids. So she's talking about, you know, making sure that you figure out what they understand and what they don't. Just put it this way, they don't know nothing. All right? What you are going to do is you're going to introduce them to learning. All right? And so I have to base level my talking. Base level the things that I'm going to teach them, because they have nothing to draw on yet. I think Mrs. Wright's terms are teach from scratch, right? When you think about it, it's the same idea that I'm saying. You are going to build that foundation, and the very most important part of any foundation is what? The base. What you give them to build on. And so it's very important that you start off making sure that you teach. Everything that you teach is very clear. They get it, because if you leave holes in that base layer, they're going to have holes throughout their whole education. And you don't want that. You want a firm foundation. So I just have a couple of things, a couple of points about teaching young children that I want to get across. I think the best way for you to think about, okay, how am I going to be for these kids? What child comes to school and does not at least know what number 1, 2, and 3 are? Ever? Hardly? Ever? Anybody come like, no, they all know those. But every once in a while, you're going to find that one child that's come from a very rough family, that nobody spent any time with them, and they're your charge. And so I think the best philosophy for you to have when teaching young children is teach it as if it's never been taught before. They know what number 1 is, but you need to teach it as if they've never seen it before. Okay? Anything. The very first time you introduce something, You don't say, well, I'm sure they know this. I can skip this and just do a quick review. No, you can't. You need to teach it as if they've never seen it. That's extremely important. You will be very much ahead of the game if you do that. All right? So teach it as if it's never been taught before. Our goal should be to make sure that every single child understands. Every single child. Can anyone tell me, how am I going to know if the children actually understand? There's lots of different ways, so there's no right and wrong answer. Give me one way. I'm going to know if a child understands.
Homework and tests.
Homework, talk about this. Homework goes home. Who's at the house with them when they're doing homework? Mom and Dad. They bring their homework to Mom and Dad. Usually, if it's a good parent, Mom and Dad's going to look over it and they're going to say, you got a lot wrong here. Let's fix this. They fix it, come back to school. Does that mean just because their homework is right that they understand it? No, because they've had help from Mom. And sometimes Mom will look at it and she'll say, 2 plus 3 isn't 6, it's 5. Fix that. Well, they didn't have to do the work there. Okay? Testing. You hit it when you said homework and tests. Where do we do tests? In the classroom. Okay? So testing is an extremely good way to know if they're truly getting the concepts that you're teaching. What's another way? Amanda's got it. Questions. Asking questions throughout the whole class. By the end of a 30-minute class period, if you are not sick and tired of asking questions and you don't feel like you've asked 1,000 questions, you've not asked enough. Because asking questions, number one, is going to help you to find out what they know. Number two, asking questions is going to keep them participating. Because you ask a question and 3 or 4 kids raise their hand and you say, good, I'm glad you want to answer that. But Susie, what do you think? She just called on someone without their hand raised. I don't even know what she asked. I better pay attention, because I don't want to look silly if she calls on me. So asking questions is going to keep your class participating and focused on you. All right? So if you're going to make sure you teach it as if it's never been taught before, you need to make sure that you're saying, I want everyone to learn, and you're going to make sure that you ask questions. That's going to help. All right? Think about this. You ask a question, and you know that at least 75% of the class knows it. And so you say, okay, do we all understand this? If you have any questions? No questions. So that means everyone understands it, right? No, it means that those few that don't know it are afraid to ask. So it's my place to ask the questions. And I find out real quick, ooh, some of them don't understand this. And so by asking questions, I'm finding out what they know and what they don't know. All right? So teach it as if it's never been taught before. Don't fall into the trap of all kindergartners come in. At first grade, oh my goodness. First graders come in, they can count to 100. But I can't start my year out by saying, you guys already know how to count to 100, so we're going to skip counting by ones. We'll just start with the other stuff. You're going to lose some kids. Don't do that. All right? The second thing that I would say, if you're working with young children, primary age children, you cannot skip. Whether you skip a complete lesson or whether you skip little things inside of your daily lesson. They are put together with a sole purpose of taking them from one point to the next for review, 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 which all little children need review because that's what's going to keep it fresh, so when you build on it, they remember it. If you teach something in September and you haven't taught on it and reviewed it for 2 months, you cannot expect them to remember that. It's got to stay fresh in their mind. So if I skip something, I really hate talking about subtraction. I'm just not going to do that. Whoa, that's not your choice. Everything you have to teach, a complete lesson, you have to review, review, review. That's so important for little kids, that review. So don't leave anything out. Make sure you teach a complete lesson. The next thing I want to say is you need to Teach to the future. Let me tell you what I mean by that. Okay, I have my number chart. I'm going to be showing you. When I first introduce numbers, I teach the one family. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Stop. That's the one family. How do I know it's the one family? I teach them because it only takes one number to make it. That's the one family. Then I introduce the teen family, the 20 family, the 30 family, and I introduce that all the numbers across the top of my chart, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, they're all the fathers. Now, why do I hit that so hard? Because I know that later on, I'm going to be teaching place value, and I'm going to have to help them to understand what is the one's place value, what is the 10's place value, what is the 100's place value. If I've taught my beginning math lessons properly, and I've explained it to them and they understand why this is ones, why this is teens, why these are fathers, when I come to place value, it's not going to be hard. Now, I just taught the double digit addition, not the carrying yet, but I taught the double digit addition. And you know what? Every single one of them got it like that. And I didn't have to do anything very special. You know what I hit over and over and over? I said, this is just like our regular addition, but you always, 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 always do the ones column first. The ones column first. And so they look at the ones column, they do the addition. Now, why am I saying always do the ones column first? Because I know that pretty soon I'm going to be teaching them to carry. And you cannot do it if you start with the tens, okay? So even though we've not gotten to it, and I'm just introducing maybe the one family, I'm doing it very carefully and I'm doing it very thoroughly because I know if I do that, later on, the place values are just going to be a snap to them, okay? And they have not, we've done place value and they love it. And this is my first year of teaching first grade, so I was kind of apprehensive because I've taught for years, but I've never done place value. So I was apprehensive. I'm thinking, okay, are they going to get this? Bing, 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 bing. No problems. Why? Because I was very careful to teach knowing that I'm going to need that concept in the future. Teach it thoroughly, teach it correctly at the beginning, and you won't have any problems. Teach it down on their level. That's the important thing. Teach it down on their level. Okay, so you're teaching for the future. Another thing that is going to help you working with children, any age children, be consistent. Be consistent with your terminology. Be consistent with the way you do things. You can't say, let's add this way one time and add it a different way another time. No, you have to be consistent. Your consistency is helping them to see it and to do it, and pretty soon they're doing it just like you are. Why? Because they love you? That too. But because you're doing it the same every day and they just pick it up. It's when we get confused and do something different that then they say, I've never seen that before. But they have. You're just confusing them because you're not being consistent. So think through your lessons and say, this is going to be the very best way that I can teach this. It's going to be I'm going to be able to explain it down on their level, and you'll be fine. Be consistent with what you do. Now, another thing, make sure you get this down, is that you have to give them something to build on. Okay? Let me show you. Excuse me while I grab this. Okay? So let's say that I'm teaching them not that number. Let's say I'm teaching them this number. Okay? I'm teaching the number 5. For a young child, sometimes even first graders, I can teach them that this is the number 5 and they can get it. But what do I mean? What do I mean by 5? Okay, fine, I know that's number 5, Mrs. Brader, but what is the importance of that? So I say, okay, I have to give them something to build on. Everybody has already been counting We start that right at the beginning of the year. We count to 10 right from day one in kindergarten. In first grade, we start counting 30. Okay? So if I'm teaching the number, I teach that concept right with it, and I give them something to build on. I give them something to understand what I'm talking about. What is this the number 5? How do I know that? Let's count these things and find out. Class begin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many bees do I have here? 5. Is this the number 5? Okay, that's what I mean. And then I not only do that, but I find other ways of showing them. Did you know there are different types of learning? I know. I watched Mrs. Wright's lecture and I heard her say it. There are visual learners, there are auditory learners, but every child, young child that you're teaching, if you put something in front of them, they're going to connect it and say, oh, that's what she's saying. So we're doing our numbers, and I have the kids count and say, okay, somebody tell me, I'm going to cover these up. How many elephants are there? Well, they have to count, and then I can take that away to see if they're right. I have visuals. There should always, do you need visuals from Mrs. Wright in here talking to you to understand? Do you? You don't. Why? Because you're mature. You're adults. You can focus. Little kids can't do that. So what do I do to keep them focused? I use my voice. I use my visuals. Okay? So I'm keeping them focused. All right, so make sure you use your visuals to help keep them focused and to give them something that you can build on. Okay? Okay, so that's that. Now, let's start into the nitty-gritties. Let me see what time it is. Yes, I need to. All right. So, Mrs. Wright said you're struggling. Could you do me a favor and pass those around, please? Let me make sure I don't pull this off. Just send those around. We're going to talk about number formation. Very, very important, and this is something very important to stay consistent with. You can't do it one way. And let me say this. I've seen teachers that teach it this way, but then they go to grade their papers and they loopy-loo their 2s, or they do the special up over, and some of them even put a little dash in their 7. But is that the way we've taught them? So if we truly want to be consistent, anything that you write on their papers, anything that you want them to see, must look like what you've asked them to do. That's consistency. And that takes a little extra work. Because a lot of times we're not used to writing that way. But on their papers. Or you write a note to their mom, cursive, do whatever you want. But if it's on their papers that you've taught them what you want them to do it like that. So when I teach the number formations, we teach them to the tune of, I just lost it. I think it skipped to my loo. Da 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 da. Okay, so I'm going to do 1, and then I'm not singing anymore. Okay, so let's look at this. These are the numbers. Would you get your papers out, please, and get your pencil? And I would like you to fill in the dots of where we start things. That's a really important thing for them to learn. So I don't think yours have dots on them, but you can do that on the first one. But when we teach number 1, we teach that it starts on the ceiling and it walks straight down and then you're done. Walk straight down and then you're done. So I sing it, walk straight down and then you're done. Walk straight down and then you're done. Walk straight down and then you're done. I am number 1. And they love singing that. And the first day you teach that, they'll go home and go, walk straight, ba-da-dee-da-ba-dee-da, walk straight, da-da-da-da, 1, 1, I am number 1. And the parents call me and say, what are they singing? I said, oh, we learned a new song today. They've got the tune, and they don't quite have the words yet, but it drives their parents batty. Okay? Because that's all they're singing. It's the new thing. So then I say, okay, here's what it is. Walk straight down and then you're done. Okay, now listen to the formation of all the rest of them. As I do it, I want you to trace the first number on your paper. Okay, so if you didn't trace the number 1, I want you to trace the number 1. And then you may write the number 1 right beside it. Okay, and when you write your number 1, don't slant it. When we're introducing numbers, we have straight sticks. So we say walk slanted down? No, walk straight down. Now there's going to be slanted sticks too, but they learn that number formation song, they learn how to do it, it sticks in their head, they go to bed, they're humming that song. Okay, that's how they learn it. So look at number 2 then. Watch me first. You're going to start on the middle of the upstairs and you're going to walk away from the house, the beginning. Okay, so it's around, slant down, and then straight back. Okay, so you go ahead and do that. Number 2, while I say it, it's around, slant down, and then straight back. And what you want to teach them is that number 2 should sit up straight. Okay, some of the kids will write it and they'll just slant a little bit so it looks like that 2 is going to topple over. Okay, make it slant right back down to the beginning underneath where it started and walk straight back so it sits up straight. Number 3 is going to look like 2 balls sitting on top of each other. Okay, you do not want a slanted 3. You want it to sit up straight. So where you start and where you end needs to be right under each other, and the balls need to be the same size. Okay? So with number 3, it starts in the middle of the upstairs. Don't forget to make a circle for your starting point there. You walk around, come in a little bit, walk around and around again. Now what I tell them with the number 3s and what you need to make sure you know, Mrs. Wright has a writing test, correct? Do not loop in the middle. You walk in a little bit, you walk right outside on top of that, and you make the same size ball underneath of it. Okay? Number 3. Number 4, down, across, and then straight down. So you'll go down and across, and then you pick up your pencil, put it up on the ceiling, and walk straight down. And what you have to remind them is that number 4 has a tail. Okay? Make sure that they leave a little bit hanging out there when they make their straight stick down. Down, across, and then straight down. Before I forget to say this, the kids love doing this. And the kids love doing it in the air. So when I would introduce it, I would say it, I would do it with my finger or do it with my finger, and then I'd say, would you like to do this with me? Yes. I said, all right, I'm going to let you do it. Get your finger pencil out. Watch me. And that tiniest little made everyone in the entire class want to do that. And I would let them do it. Time for our finger pencils ready, and the whole class would go whoosh. Why? I'm just doing something that will intrigue them and make them want to participate. And so then I do it in the air. Can anybody tell me what is the biggest problem with me standing in front of them doing it in the air?
You'd have to do it backwards.
I have to do it backwards, and sometimes you think you got it, and sometimes you're going, okay, 5. Oh yeah, right here. Sometimes you just have mind blocks, but I have to do it backwards because they're looking at me, and I'm doing it so they see it frontwards. Okay, so if you're going to do that, make sure you do it, or you could turn around and go like this if you have to, but don't turn your back to the class. Okay, so like I'm going to do right now. So number 4, down across, what you're looking for is that tail. And look, my sticks, although probably not as good as they should be, are straight down. Don't let them be slanted and sloppy. And they start on the line, they bounce off the line, they don't go below the line. Okay, so make them stay in the lines. Number 5 seems to be a backwards number because they've been telling go that way, go that way. And now here, see 2 goes that way, 3 goes that way, 4 we're heading that way, now 5 we're going backwards. That's the thing with number 5. They'll make it backwards because they start here and go across. Like, so we say, up, go towards the house. So number 5 is one sweep. You don't pick up your pencil. So you walk across and down and then around. And it's okay for that ball to come up above the line a little bit. Okay, it should come up above the line a little bit. But 5 should, that ball should end right underneath of the stick down. And you know, it's really fun when you're teaching the numbers to find something that you can say about it. Okay, so number 5, I say, you know, when it's raining out, this ball, he has to be underneath his umbrella. Otherwise, it'll rain on him. And so when they're doing it backwards and they have the ball the wrong way, I'll say, is the ball under the umbrella? No, the ball goes the other way. All right? The thing with number 6 that you're going to want to watch is that 6 does not bounce up and around. 6 starts on the ceiling and it's down and around to make a ball. That ball touches the dotted line and connects in the center there. Okay? The 6 ball does not go above the dotted line. And it's not straight stick down. It curves around and down. Okay? And the thing you have to watch with them doing this is they'll either do just the tiniest little ball down here or they make that ball go way up here. Okay? Number 7, starts on the ceiling, walk across, and then slant down. Now it does not go all the way to the beginning. It kind of has to set in the middle or else it will topple over. The thing that you need to work on with the little kids is their slant down, but also right here, if you're not careful, they'll curve down. It's a straight across and then slant down. It's a pointy. And sometimes if I'm seeing a problem with it, I'll go to their papers and if it's slanted, I'll say, that's curvy, isn't it? That's not pointy. I need to find someone who's got a real pointy one. And I'm looking at the papers and I find somebody that looks nice and I'll take my finger and put it there and go, ah, woo, that's really pointy. It pricked me. You say, you're really ridiculous, Mrs. Brader. It affects the kids. You can't be stoic in front of first graders. You have to give yourself to them. And when you just, that tiniest little thing, I wonder if anybody else has a pointy 7. And the one who did it curvy last time has a perfect point. Okay? You pull them along with what you say and do. Now, 8 is hard. But if you think about it like this, you know how to make a letter S, right? Around, across, down. Now, if some of you are lazy and go down, slant down, it's not going to work. S is around, walk across, down, and up. So the way we make the number 8 is make an S and curve back up. So you make your ball in the top, walk across the dotted line, make a nice round ball in the bottom, and when you get almost to the top, get to that dotted line, walk across that dotted line, and then finish your ball. It should look like 2 round balls, but do not let them do this. Round ball on the top, round ball on the bottom. They will try it. Okay? So make your balls. Number 9, the thing I would say with number 9 is that they must start their ball in the middle. There is no 2 strokes with the number 9. It's one smooth stroke. So you teach them, they put their pencil in the middle, up and around, down and around, up. As soon as you finish that circle, come around, up, stop, and slide down. It's like a, up and around, down and around, stop, go down. There is no stick above where you connect your ball. And that's what they like to do. They like to make their ball. They like to start their balls here maybe. They make their ball and then they come over here and make a stick down. That's wrong. It's one smooth motion. And then number 10 is easy because you've already known the number 1. And then the 0 for number 10 starts in the middle of the upstairs and they just have to remember nice and round, down and around, and up. Any questions on writing the numbers? Don't forget to make sure that you have the starting places on there for your, as you're writing numbers for her, you can look at those starting places and make sure you do them properly. Okay? No questions on that? All right, so let's talk a little bit about place value. Hold on, make sure I've got what I need here. I'm going to get these out of my way. Oh, good, I crisscrossed. Okay, we're going to talk about place value very quickly. Place value is very fun. You say, what is place value? Well, remember me telling you I taught them ones, and I taught them tens, and I taught the fathers. That's when I have my number line up there, it makes it very easy. I also have this chart that I always keep up. Okay, so let me show you. Kindergartners learn families like this. When they get in the first grade, they go to 100 and then they go above it and go to 200. We start them learning like this. This is a cross. This is families. Okay, remember me saying the one family, the teen family? So I have this up there. I'm going to teach place value. I have to remind them again. What did I say about the number 1? How do I know what family the number 1 is? What makes it be a 1 family? Because it only takes one number to make it. Okay, that's logical. The teen family, the 20 family. Up here, these are the fathers of those families. So when I'm teaching place value, I have the ones and I have the tens that we start with. Well, we learn to count by tens. And so we count the fathers when we count by tens. So it's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. I have another sheet that goes over there. All right? So we count the fathers to count by tens. So I have place value cards that we start off with, and I show them. Here's my ones, here's my tens. Can somebody tell me what number this is? It's a 1. There's only one 1. Is there any tens in here? No. It's just the number 1. And so I go through that, helping them to see this. They can see it here. They see it written out. And we talk about the ones and the tens. I'm getting that terminology in their head before we get to the big ones. Okay? So I also use my cups. I have a ones cup and I have a tens cup. Okay? And so we do straws. I have how many straws here? I have 3 straws. Ooh, let's put that in my ones. I have 3 straws. And they count straws all the time. Okay? They count pencils all the time. They count money all the time. We're totally counting all the time. Keeping it fresh in their mind. When I teach them to count by tens, I take a pile of straws, take the rubber band off. I say, let's count these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10. How many straws do I have here, class? 10. All right. How many do I have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10. So if I have 40 straws here, and I have them all out of the rubber bands, then I said, let's count the straws and find out how many we have. And we start counting. And it takes a while to get to 40. And I'll say, wait, didn't we learn to count by tens? Let's count by tens. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. Ooh, what if we took 10 straws and put them together? How many is this, class? 10. How many straws is this, class? 10. How many straws is this, class? 10. I have 10 in each pile. So then I'll say, let's count my straws. There are 10 in each pack here. So I can count by what? By tens. Let's count by tens. 10, 20, 30, 40. How many straws here? Ma'am, 40. Was that fast counting? It was. Let's grab my big straw piles. Do you want to count these again? No. We like the fast way. Okay, so I get them introduced to my sets of tens. So that when I get to the place value, it's going to be very easy to help them understand. I've got my ones. Now think about this. If I have the number 31 or 32, there's 2 straws here, 32. What is my ones number? 30? Oh, no, no, no. That's a tens number because remember the fathers are the tens, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Why is this number 2 in the 1 family? Because it only makes one number to make it. Okay, so we start talking about that. We introduce, and I have these all the way up to 100. We do them all. How many is in my tens family? Count, 10, 20, 30. How many is in my tens family? 30. How many is in my ones? 2. What's my number? 32. They get it so easily. So I use my straws, and I help them. I let them make their own number and then tell us what it is. Okay? But then I get them starting to look at my number chart. I get them starting looking at my number chart, and I say, okay, if I have the number 63, 63. What is that? 60. Oh, is that a ones number? No. What number is that? That's a tens number. How many do I have? 60. Let's put that under the tens column. 60. How many do I have in the ones? 3. Is that a ones number? I have my chart there. Let's look. Oh, 3 is in the ones family. Yes. 63, 63. And whenever I do a number with them, I always have my place value chart, my card here. Let's take a look at it here too. I've got it in my place value chart, but let's make sure we've got it right. My kids had no problems whatsoever, and it's all because I started at the beginning of the year teaching the 1 family, 1 number. You say the 1 number at the end of your number. You say the 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. That's the tens family. And these are in piles of 10 to help us count that. And so when we're doing just regular flashcards, I would point to numbers and I say, let's say this, 45, 45. So everything that I'm doing with them is helping them to learn this, okay? So the straws help out a lot. Then we do addition. Any questions on the place value? Oh, and then as I get to bigger numbers, we're in the hundreds now, it'll have 243. And I'll just say the number. I'll say 200. Where does that go? Duh. Ma'am, the hundreds column? Yeah, let's put it here. 243. What's my tens number? Ma'am, 40. Yes, let's put it there. 3. Very, very, very easy. Okay, the thing that threw them just a little bit is when you had to have, if it was a 104, and that I can't just leave that blank. So if I don't have any in my tens column, when I have nothing, what do I use? A 0 to show nothing. So they got that all right. So then I teach them, they know addition. We're up to the 10 family. We're getting ready to start the 11 family. They know that. So I said today we're going to do something different, special. We are going to learn 2-digit addition. And it's really, really easy. When you learn 2-digit addition, you have a big number and a big number. You've only been doing small numbers. But it's really easy. What we need to know about doing 2-digit addition is that you, and I always say this, always, 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 always do the, and they say, ones column first. Wait a minute. Let's draw a line down through this. And let's make sure, and you've got to hit this, let's make sure we keep the number straight. Now, you've got your division there. What column is this? The ones column. What column is this? The tens column. What do we do first? The ones column. Class, 2 plus 4 equals 6. So we write our number down, 6. 5 plus 1 equals, ma'am, 6. We write our tens column down. What's my number? 66, 66. Not one child struggled with the double-digit addition. It just came naturally to them because everything we did was the ones first. Where does it go? In the ones column. I have not taught this yet, but I'm not contemplating any problems at all because when you try to teach borrowing, Remember what you've taught them, and if you've taught it properly, you won't have a problem. We're still going to put our line down here. They start off the kids with a box up here, and the kids are like, why is there a box there? I'm going to show you why. What column is this, class? Ma'am, the ones column. How do I know a number's in the ones family? It only takes one number to make it. Let's add this. Class, 6 plus 7, 13. They don't have that. They don't know that yet. 13. What is wrong? Ma'am, it can only, if it's in the ones family, it can only have one number to make it up. Huh, what am I going to do? I got an idea. 13, what family is that in? Ma'am, the teen family. So do I have a ones and a 10? A tens column? Yes, let's do this. We're going to put our ones column down, 13. How do you make 13? 1 and 3 to make 13. Let's take that 1 and put it in the 10 family where it belongs. That 1 doesn't belong in the 1 family. The 3 does, so we're going to put the 1 up there, and we're going to put it in the box so you don't forget to add him. Now, I've already started my first graders on 3 number additions, 3 plus 2 plus 1, so they know that there will be more to add. So when I say, all right, now let's add the tens column, 1 plus 3, and 4, 4 plus 2, and 6, you just learn to add and you learn to carry. You have to carry that number. Anything that's over 9 cannot go in the ones column. It has to go in the tens and the 1, just like we did with our chart. And because I've done it with the chart, the ones column, the tens column, oh, okay, it's the same thing. That's good. I know how to do that already. See, I'm connecting it to something they've already been working with. This is really easy. You've done it over there. Now let's just do it in an addition problem. It's very simple. Okay? Any questions on carrying? If you just remember that ones family can only have one number in it, what do we do with the other one? Well, it's a tens column number. Put it up where it belongs. Okay? So that's place value and addition, carrying. The other thing I wanted to mention, I have 5 minutes left, is clocks. Now I'm going to kind of hit some things that I didn't talk about at the beginning that I know Mrs. Wright has said. She is big on terminology, is she not? Very big. There in math, especially in the primary grades, there is no room for any slang terminology. None. Don't fall trap to that. This is not the big hand. This is not the little hand. You cannot do that. Why? Because everything has to have a reason for being there. So my reason for this little hand here, that I'm not going to call a little hand, I'm going to call it the hour hand, is because it's going to help me to tell time. Now wait, I'll get to it. There's a reason for this big hand to have the name minute hand. Okay, so I'm going to introduce the clock to them, and I'm going to tell them our day goes by the clock. The clocks help us to tell time, to know what time it is in the day. So our clocks have some special terms. Let's look at them. The first one is the long hand. We call that the minute hand. The minute hand. And then right then and there, I teach them when the minute hand is on the 12, we say o'clock. Now when I taught kindergarten, as soon as they learned enough numbers, as soon as they got past 12, I introduced the clock. Because they knew the numbers, and I could start having them learn the terminology of the clock, and they would have tons of time practicing o'clock numbers. Very easy. They always knew when the minute hand is on the 12, we say, and they would say, o'clock. Yes. What o'clock is it? That's what our tiny little hand called the our hand is going to tell us. What o'clock is it? What hour of the day is it? It is 6 o'clock. And I point to them, all right? And then I take my handy dandy little Judy Instructo clock that I can do here so that they can see as the minute hand's going around, the hour hand is also moving. And I find different times for them and I say, is it o'clock, class? No. Why not? Because the minute hand has to be on the 12. Oh, I went too far. I just play around with it. Is it o'clock, class? Yes. What o'clock is it? Look at the hour hand. And they'll say, ma'am, 12 o'clock. Ooh, wait a minute. Which one's the hour hand? The long one or the short one? Which one's the hour hand? You have to use the proper terms because that's going to help them later on as you're going more in depth. Okay, so I teach them the terms. Then I teach them after they've done o'clocks forever and they're sick of o'clocks because I've, done them and they've done them and I teach them how to write them. Then I say, let's take a look at this. We've learned how to count by fives. Can anyone tell me what would be something good for me to introduce when I introduce counting by fives?
Nickels.
Nickels. That's exactly what it is. Where's my nickel? Right there. We introduce nickels. Now, I brought the big ones just so the camera could see it. But I like using the real money, and I have magnetized money up on the chalkboard that's closer to the real money size because they do these great, and they know them, and then I pull out a real quarter, and they're like, a nickel. Like, no, a dime. No, a penny? What color is this? They're totally confused, like they've never learned anything. So I like the real size money. It helps them, that way it's consistent. But these are really good for when you've got a big class and they need to see it. Okay, so teaching, I'm introduced counting by fives, then I can practice on my clock. And once I do that, ooh, let's practice counting by five. Class ready? 5, 10, 15, 20. I get all the way up to 60 and I'll say, wait a minute, it's up at the top again. Now what do? We get to start all over because it's a new hour. And then I introduce the term, there are 60 minutes in 1 hour. Okay? I have to introduce them as we practice them. I introduce them properly, I practice them, and they get it. Now, the one questionable thing, okay, all right, so now I also want to teach, take a look at this. Let me go back here. I don't let the kids touch my big Judy Instructo because they're going to go and ruin it. I'm the one that gets to play with this. But take a look, 6 o'clock. I do this and then I'll say, I'll take something and I'll cover up half of my clock. And I'll say, well, what is this and what is this? If I go down this far, how far have I gone? And they'll say half the way around. Okay, so then I have it up at here to show them that this is dividing my circle in half. Okay, and I'll say, okay, you're going around, it's halfway around my clock. Halfway. So let's count this. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. When the minute hand is on the 6, we say half past or 30 minutes after. I make sure they know both of those terms. Okay, so you teach them, I call them phrases, I can't think of the term now, but it's certain phrases that they say all the time, the same way, every time. It gets in their mind and it sticks. So that I say, what time is it? And they look at that and say, ooh, I don't know. And I'll say, when the minute, ooh, it comes to their head. When the minute hand's on the 6, we say, ma'am, it's half past. Half past what? Okay, but they're getting it. You teach those key phrases all the time. Now, the one thing that I found that is the hardest concept to do, I've got 2 minutes, the hardest concept for them to do is, how do I know what hour it is? Is it 7:30 or is it 8:30? Is it 7:30 or is it 8:30? It looks like either one. It's in between both of them. And I had kids struggling with it, and I don't know how I came up with it, but one day I said, look, put your 2 fingers on either side of where the hour hand is pointing. What 2 numbers is it between? And the 7 and the 8. Between the 7 and the 8. Listen to this carefully. Always, always, always. They know something's coming, and whenever I do something like that, they're going to have to answer. I say always, always, always. Choose the smaller number. Always, always. If you don't know what hour you should be saying, put your fingers on the 2 numbers on the outside of where it's between, and always choose the smaller number. And when I see kids struggling and they write the wrong answers on their papers, I'll say, put your 2 fingers there. What 2 numbers are they between? Ma'am, the 2 and the 3. Always, always choose the smaller number. Ma'am, 2. Okay. You give them crutches to help them, and then later on as they grow up, they don't need those crutches anymore. They throw them away. But you're giving them something to help them. Okay? Did I do everything? All right, you're dismissed.